In the previous class, I already introduced some topics of in the plant tissue. Like in the four different types of concepts are there. In the first one, meristematic tissue concept, and second one is the dermal tissue, and third one is the ground tissue, and the fourth one is vascular tissue. So in this chapter, we are discussing only four different concepts only here. They all are the tissues only, but the tissues, location, and the structure and the function we can difference. So in the basically four different types of concepts are there. Let us see in the first concept of meristematic tissue. And before the class, I'm going the class. So what is the yesterday class? Just try to recall the what is the tissues. I introduce the tissues only.
Tissue. सबसे पहले
Yes, let's see. Tissues. What is the meaning of tissue? A group of similar cells along with intercellular substance perform a specific function. But cells of a tissues or similar in structure, origin, and the function. They are discussing yesterday. What is the meaning of tissue? A group of cells is called tissues. A group of cells are all the cells are similar or not? Now cells are within the similar cell along with some intercellular substance. They perform a specific function that is called for tissues are there. Tissues we can hear clear easy to say. A group of cells is called tissue, but the group of cells they perform the specific function or not, or the cells are similar or not, some intercellular substance present or not. This all we can categorize in the definition we can given in IC level. So a group of similar cells along with intercellular substance that performs a specific function is called for tissues. Then normally these tissues are similar in structure and origin and function. So whatever the study of the cells or tissues are there, the study of tissues is called histology. Yes, note everybody, the study of tissues is called histology. So already we can completed this type of topic. Who is the father of histology? Like the Nageli scientist are there. This only completed. But anatomical wise, we can observe the different types of in the structures into the plant body. Like anatomy means the total look in the structures like internal, external, and the location wise how we can identify the body parts. The total clearly explain about in this topic of the meristematic tissue. So let us see in the first in the meristematic tissue. Then actually there are two different types of tissues are there. One is meristem, another one primary, I mean permanent. In the meristematic tissue, there are two different types of tissues are there, and the meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So in the meristematic tissue is also called as temporary tissue. Do you agree with this statement? Because where the cells are continuous developing cells are there, that tissue, the group of cells is called for temporary tissue. So in the meristematic tissue, one of the temporary tissue in the found in the plant body. Like that's why the two types of tissues are there. One is the meristematic, another one permanent. Why the meristematic name mentioned? The meristematic is also called as temporary tissue. Yes. So what is the meaning of meristematic tissue? Who discovered the tissues are there? The meristematic tissue, the growth in plants is restricted in the specialized or regions of active cell division is called meristem. What is this meristematic tissue? Where the cells are continuous dividing part is there, that part is called for meristem part. Clear? That means which part of the plant growth continuously in that place originated from the special cells, the special they divide continuously, the tissue is called for meristematic tissue. Let us see. But in the meristematic tissue, in the contains undifferentiated cells. Undifferentiated cells which are the building block of specialized plant structure. The meristematic tissue contains the undifferentiated cells or there. All the cells are within the mainly building block of the specialized plant structure. But all the cells are small in size, have some dense cytoplasm, and the prominent the only single large nucleus is presented. Yes. So what is the introduction of the meristematic tissue, and then what are the characters and what are the types and what is the function? Four basic structure, four basic concept you have to learn in this topic. So what is the meaning of meristematic tissue? Let's see. What is the meaning of meristematic tissue? The meristematic tissue means where the cells are divided continuously in growth of pot in plant body, that group of cells is called meristematic tissue. So where we can find out the meristematic tissue? The meristematic tissue found it in the root tips and shoot tips, where the plant grow continuously are there. So this is a plant, we can observe this is a roots are there here, and this is stem. When the roots and stem continuously grow up in the horizontal and the vertical formation. So where the in the root tip and shoot tip grow continuously, that part is called for the place in the found in the meristematic tissue. So the meristematic tissue found in stem spot and the root spot. Okay. So all of what type of cells are there? Undifferentiated cells are there. These cells are within the building block of in the specialism plant structure. This contain many living cells with some varied shapes, and so small in size, have dense cytoplasm, and a single prominent large nucleus are there. But each and every cells have been, there is no intercellular space. Normally we discuss the intercellular space wise. There is no intercellular space. And the cells of the meristematic tissue divide actually to form specialized structures such as buds of the nodes, as flowers and tips of roots and shoots. These only cells we can divide continuously. Which part only? Tips of the root tips and shoot tips, and the flower pods and the leaves. I mean where the bud formation of the leaves. These places are we can develop into the meristematic tissue. And the mainly these cells helps in increase the length and girth of the plant. So which type of tissue increase the length and the girth of the plant, and which type of tissue there is no intercellular space, and which type of tissue divide continuously in the cells, this all we can introduced by the meristematic tissue. So but in this tissue, who is coined by the names are here? Nageli scientist coined by the name. So who is the scientist? Nageli scientist, called proper Nageli scientist. You can discuss into the name. The Nageli scientist in the mention coined by the name. So what are the main characteristics of in the meristematic tissue? So different types of characters are there in the first one. Let us see the here's the types, and then after I'm discussing the types, what is the characters wise. So this is one of the plant in the meristematic tissue of the plant. We have found in the root tip pine. The root tip pine and the shoot tips are the here's, and this is a root tip of the apical meristem and the shoot tip of the meristematic tissue. They are found in every place in the plant body. That means where the plant growth continues in that place or there, we can present into the meristematic tissue. So what are the main characters of the meristematic tissue? So which type of cells of these tissues are commonly called as meristem? So normally the meristematic tissue, the cells are called meristem. What is the name? Meristem. So the cells of meristematic tissue is called for meristem. Meristem. And the meristematic tissue as a quality of self-renewal. The another main character is self-renewal. Is any damage or in the plant body automatic, he only get the self-renewal or the mechanical repairing wise, or cells are does not divide continuously, we can repairing, there is no protoplasm substance, he will be repairing or that. That's why in the meristematic tissue, the another main character, he has a quality of the self-renewal. The self-renewal concept are there. The self-renewal. And the next, normally in the meristematic tissue, every time the cell divides in the two ways. The cell divides two different types of cells. Two different types of cell we can dividation. And the one cell and another cell, the second cell. In the first cell remains within the identical parent wise. In the meristematic tissue, the cells are divided continuously. When the cells are divided continuously, two cells are formation. The one cell we can identical in the parent. Another cell forms and specialized structure into the what with the grow up part are there. There's a second cell we can maintain the character. So meristematic tissue divide continuously are there. But we can divide how many cells with each and every cell divide two cell wise. One cell we can identical a parent, like in the mother two we can connect in. Another cell they maintained by the total in the specialized structure in the plant body, one of the character. And next, they have very small and few vacuoles are there in the meristematic parts. When the vacuoles are there in the more amount of vacuoles are the storing part, but there is no storing here. They continuously dividing part. That's why they have very small and few vacuoles are there. And the next character, this meristematic tissue is living and thin wall like structure. This is not a dead cell part. This is a living cell part in the meristematic tissue, as consisting of a very thin wall like structure. And already saying the mechanical repair also we can doing continuously. And in the cells of the meristematic tissue are young cells, but there is no immature cells. But all the cells are young, but there is no maturity, immature cells. And these meristemers consisting of high metabolic activity, and they possess a single large, a prominent nucleus present in each and every cell. It's clear. These are the different types of characters into the meristem. What are the main characters? The cells is called meristem in the character. Another one here is in the self renewal, mechanical repair. In the very small and few vacuoles are there. When the living cell and the thin walled, and also young cells are there, but immature formation, high metabolic activity, a single large prominent nucleus presented. When the cell divide continuously, two cells are there. One cell we can identify the parenticle wise, another cell forms and the specialized structure into the plant body. These all are within the different characters of into the meristematic tissue. A prominent, a dense protoplasm also we can present it. And next, what are the different types? Is already introduction is finished, and what are the characters of meristematic tissue finished. And go to the another two concepts are there. One is the structure, another one is types, another one is the function. In the structure wise, in the types are there we can explaining, and their functions are the here. So normally in the meristematic wise, let's see the video wise, there are two different types of meristematic tissue. One is a primary, another one secondary. In the primary means in the which type of tissue helps into the first growth of part is called primary. In the second growth is called for secondary tissue. In the primary tissue, in the first growth, height we can increase. Height after increase into the length. So in the primary means to grow up the height wise, and the secondary means to grow up the length, width wise. So the primary meristematic tissue and secondary meristematic tissue. In the primary, the apical and intercalary meristematic tissues are there. In the secondary, fascicular, interfascicular, and the cork cambium. The secondary is called for lateral. In the lateral and intercalary, in the primary is called apical and intercalary. So intercalary is common. So two different types of meristematic tissues are there. Primary meristematic tissue, secondary. In the primary means to grow up the height wise. The first, which part of the plant grow up in the first, that is called for primary. Then after grow up into the tissue is called for secondary. So let us see in the primary meristematic tissue of the apical part and intercalary. Apical. Epi means outer. So where the tissue profounded are there in outer part of root tip and shoot tip. In apical meristematic tissue we can present into the root tips, and this is the root tips presented, and shoot tip also we can present it. So in the normally, what is the main function of apical meristematic tissue? Increase the height of the plants. How we can increase the height of the plants are here, because in the apical part the cell divide continuously in the arrangement of cellular arrangement in enlargement of the cells. The apical meristem divide cells or divide continuously. The cells are enlargement. The cell size we can what happened is increase, or we can observe the increase wise when the cell or increase in the enlargement wise. The width also we can, the intercalary meristematic tissue we can divide continuously. That part we can grow up into the height wise and grow up into the width wise. So intercalary meristematic tissue we can act as after apical meristematic tissue. Apical means outer part growing tissue is called for apical meristematic tissue. Where we can find apical meristematic tissue? Root tips and shoot tips, where the height wise grow part in the roots or in the stem, tip of the shoot and the tip of the roots found it. In the main function, increase the height of the plant and increase the height of the roots and increase the roots. And the main function of apical meristem is to increase the height. And how to increase the height? Cellular enlargement. Inside some space we can create it. Actually meristematic tissue cells are there is no intercellular space, but these only we can arrangement the some space. So some arrangement are there, the cellular enlargement wise, to increase the apical meristematic tissue. What about the intercalary meristematic tissue? Intercalary, the location intermediate part of the plant body, and the middle part location of the tissue is called for intercalary meristematic tissue. This intercalary the mainly and the leaves and internodes of increase internodes we can locate it, increase the found in the monocot plants and the pines and different types of plants we can locate it. Let us see. So what are the characters of tissue we can hear? Apical meristem, where we can occurs are the tip of root and shoot parts. Normally when the seed grow formation, sorry, so some characters are the apical meristematic tissue occurs at the tip of root and shoot. And root apical meristem is derived from the radicle of the embryo, and shoot apical meristem derived from the plumule of the embryo. You know that when this is the seed consisting of the two cotyledons or the hairs, two axes are the one radical axis and in the terminal axis, that is called for plumule. These radical axes that develop into the roots part, and this terminal axis grow develop into the shoot part. So when the radical of the embryo part that develop in the root apical meristem, so the roots are we can develop, and the plumule of the in the embryo we can develop into the shoot apical meristem tissue. And during the formation of leaves and elongation of stem, some cells left behind from the shoot apical meristem and constitute axillary bud. So during the formation of in the leaf formation or stem or elongated formation, this time what happened? The some cells are left behind the shoot apical meristem. In this time cells are weakened the left, the missing. The constitute what happened is the forming of axillary bud. When the forming of axillary bud, they continue to develop into the leaves and stem automatic elongated structure. Axillary buds are present in the axil of leaves. Where the axillary buds are presented mainly axil of the leaves and are capable of forming a branch or a flower. So any part of the plant grow up into the tissue apical tissue. What about intercalary? The which type of tissue occurs between the mature tissue are called intercalary tissue. Maturity tissue is called here. These are derived from the apical meristem and get separated from the formation of permanent tissue in between. Those meristem helps in the elongation of organs. They are found in the bases of leaves, above or below in the nodes. In grasses, these regenerate parts removed by the grazing herbivores. Why the plants, you know that here some herbivores eating of the grasses item. So when within the 4 or 5 days over 1 week, the graze that part we can grow continuously. Why sir? Because we are working of only intercalary meristematic tissue, we can regenerating part are the hairs. You all know that yes, like in the mint leaves we can cut position of in your home, so grow continuously are there. That plot to grow up the intercalary meristema tissue are there here. Any plant, the rose we can cutting formation, any plant here to cut, then have to grow continuously are there. Why? Because the involving of intercalary meristem. This also called as you can cambium are there here. And the secondary meristematic tissue, this is also called as lateral meristematic tissue, and this tissue helps in the mainly location occurs in the mature regions of the roots and shoot produce wood axis are the hairs. They already saying here the lateral means sides, so this tissue helps into the increase the width. After primary meristem, after this appear we can development startage, then after increase the girth of the plant. So normally three different types of cambium are there in the and the fascicular and the cork and the vesicular cambium. Cork cambium, cork means here the present within the bark of the wooden stem. So outside of the wood stem a present is called for cork. This cork position we can identify the bark part. Here identify some cambium part are the hairs. The contributes outer bark of the tree continues. What about the vascular? Vascular means the food and water transport tissue is called for vascular cambium. Inside of the plant body we presented here, and this is secondary vascular tissue. And the vascular cambium present between amyloids, xylem and phloem in vascular bundles, as secondary vascular tissue to both of the sides. This we can observe in the primary growth of in the stem, in the secondary growth in the stem. This is secondary growth in the stem is a vascular cambium. This is called for cork cambium or the hairs. In the cork cambium only we can to grow up are the hairs. These are lateral meristems and the shoot tips. In axillary bud development formation, the secondary. In the vascular cambium is a xylem and phloem are separating formation, but here only formation of in the primary phloem and primary gem, that only formation, right? Here development only here. Yes. So these all are we can different types of meristematic tissue. The mainly primary and secondary. Primary means apical and intercalary. Secondary means lateral and intercalary. In apical, where we can find out in the tip of the root and shoot tips, the main function increase the height. How to increase the height? Cellular enlargement concept. And intercalary present in the middle part of the plants that develop regenerating parts only continuously. This is also called as cambium. When the present of nodes and internodes in the formation of flowers, in the formation of branches, totally maintained by the cambium. And the next secondary is also called as lateral. This lateral we can found it into the grasses, monocot, pines, the each and every place, but found it only root and shoot parts in the sides wise only presented. The main function thickness to increase the girth of the plant, the stems and the roots we can the growth formation develop into these parts. But these we can development of the in this position wise only the types of their hairs. But actually in the meristem is a pro meristem, primary meristem, secondary meristem, three types of is their hairs. This is only position wise, but basically meristems are three different types: pro meristem, primary meristem, and secondary meristem. Pro meristem means this earliest, youngest meristematic tissue. This develop into the embryo and the found in root and shoot tips. Promeristem. The primary meristems are arises from the promeristem, Here only cell divide continuously methods. In the secondary meristem, the originated from the primary meristem. Here found it of the tissues are begin forming. Then after grow up the apical and lateral meristematic tissue. Otherwise, there are two different types of is base of the position and formation wise. Formation wise, promeristem, primary meristem, secondary meristem. Promeristem develops into the embryo, that is earliest, youngest in the mesh tissue, and this main function only found in the root tip and shoot tips. When the root tip and shoot tip grow formation develop in the primary meristem, the primary meristem cell divide continuously. When the cell divide continuously, the organelle from the secondary meristem. The secondary meristem, all the cells are grouping formation like tissue-like structure. In these tissues, we can that separated by the apical meristem tissue, lateral meristem tissue, and intercalary meristem tissue. We can find out this part. So finally, what are the main functions of in the meristematic tissue? Main functions. The first one, protoderm is one of the function. The protoderm means it is the outermost plant tissue and the forms is also epidermis. The form in the epidermis are there, and any mechanical shocks or injuries are there helping into the mechanical tissues, meristematic tissue. And also in innermost tissues that gives xylem and phloem part also can develop in the tissue, meristematic tissue, and also different parts of the plant. They helps into the, that's why is also called as in the doctor of the plant tissue. Which tissue is the doctors of the plant tissue? Meristematic tissue is called for doctors of plant tissue or the hairs. Mechanical repair and injuries and any self-repayment, cell divide continuously, living cells are the all the weekend the basic function of in the meristematic tissues. This is one concept of in the meristematic tissue. Tomorrow again discuss about the second concept, that is a dermal tissue. Is that clear? A meristematic tissue, four concepts are there: what is introduction, and what are the characters and types and structures and functions. These four basic level here to learn is clearly here to understood and very well. And these type of questions are mainly why I'm saying the lengthy wise topics are there in the neat wise we're using in these topics. I hope you have very well understood in this topic in the primary and secondary meristematic tissue. Is it clear? So thank you everyone. Wait and see another class of the tomorrow.